Hi, this is Savannah,
And this is Brian from the Dorky Diva Show,
and you're listening to Starboars.
the best place for below average Star Wars.
In a world where people need 80s and 90s movie reviews, two regular Geordies combine forces to bring you the Brother to Brother 80s and 90s movie review podcast. Check them out on Twitter, YouTube, and all decent podcast vendors.
Welcome to Starboars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, the best place for below average Star Wars. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete, and we're back with another of our Beauty BELTA specials. We haven't done these for a while, and for those who don't know the concept, Beauty BELTA is a slang term from up here in Newcastle, in the northeast of England, where I'm from, and it essentially means something that you find excellent or brilliant, something that you really, really like. For example, for me, living in Newcastle, one of my favourite burger bars is Meat Stack. So Meat Stack is purely belter to me. And the whole point of this series was to find out from fellow Star Wars fans what aspect of Star Wars that they find is purely belter. So today we've got a very special guest joining us. It is Silver from the Into the Garbage Chute podcast, and is also, in my opinion, one of the most prolific hunters of Star Wars merchandise. Definitely check Silver out on social media, because I sort of live sort of curiously through the hunts that you go on, Silver, and the awesome merchandise that you find. So yeah, Silver, how are you doing, and welcome to Star Wars.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. Really excited to be having. First of all, thanks for having me on the show, and thanks for extending the invitation. I love talking about Star Wars and meeting new friends. And hey, I know we're in a bit of a time difference, but that doesn't matter. I'm excited for the conversation. So thank you so much.
No problem at all. It's great to have you on. And like I said, today we're going to be talking a lot about, sort of Star Wars merchandise hunting and Star Wars thrifting, which is something that you find pretty better. But, we can talk about any aspect of Star Wars, and also it would definitely be great to have you on again to talk about other aspects of Star Wars as well. But let's dive right in there. Obviously, Silver, you find Star Wars thrifting is purely belter. And I just want to start by finding out, just want to give the listeners a sort of brief introduction to what Star Wars thrifting is.
Yeah. So thrifting, the word thrift, it's pretty much anything that you find that is secondhand, whether it's stuff that it's been donated at these, well, we call them thrift stores. So, um, yeah, so anything that's secondhand that's been already used, already bought. I like to collect my Star Wars collectibles through secondhand use, whether it's going through these thrift stores where people make donations of stuff that they don't want. They take them to the thrift stores, and then they're sold there for a much cheaper price, obviously, because these things aren't new. Or we have these things called the flea market here in the US, which is just these big markets on the weekend, and people can go and just sell their stuff that they have in their attics or garage that they don't want anymore. And yeah, so that's kind of how I build my Star Wars collection. Everything's really just bought secondhand, which is fun because you just never know what you're gonna what you're gonna pick up during the weekend. It's always just a mixed bag of stuff, but for me, it's always a little bit more personal for me, just because it's one of those uh, be there at the right place at the right time to find something really cool. So that's just kind of how I focus my collection building in Star Wars.
And you're based out of California, is that correct?
Yes, I am the Bay Area.
And judging by, again, sort of what I've seen on social media, you seem to have quite a lot of fruitful hunts. Is it safe to say that California, the Bay Area, is a great place for Star Wars thrifting?
I would say so. Where I am about a 35-minute drive from Lucasfilm itself. The Bay Area is the kind of the birthplace of Star Wars. The Star Wars culture here is just huge, along with the thrifting culture here in California. I also live in a very big city, so I am just surrounded by a lot of these flea markets and thrift stores that I was just speaking of. So I want to say that it's not really, I can't give myself all the credit that, oh, I just have this natural act for it. I think I just happen to be in the prime location for Star Wars thrifting. Really. But yeah, California just has some really great spots. And again, the Star Wars culture here is pretty ginormous, so works in my favor.
Well, it's certainly something I'm jealous of because here in the UK, we don't have a lot of, even vintage toy stores are quite rare here in the
Mhm.
UK, so you have to travel for them. So I like to get about and get to my local vintage toy store in Newcastle, but that has some stuff in, but not a lot, to be honest.
Mhm.
And then when I sort of see certainly the things that you're finding, which we'll get into later, like it does sort of whet my appetite for wishing we had more of that in here in the UK. Um, what does sort of a typical week look like for you,
Well,
Silver, when you're on the hunt? How many places are you hitting up a week?
okay, well, for a week, well, I am back at work full time. So, before that, it was kind of a lot, easy. I was able to, easily to go, but, I work Monday through Friday. Sometimes, after work, I'll be like, you know what? Let me go pop into the recycle bookstore, or let me go pop into a thrift store on the way home. Maybe I'll spot something. Um, for sure, the weekends have been my heavy hunting, for sure. I would say I go out probably about three to four times a week. But that's just like the how many days I go. Sometimes like on a Saturday, I'm out all day. So I'll go early in the morning, I'll come home, do stuff, go out again. So sometimes Saturday I probably go out like four different times. But for sure, like average 3 to 4 days a week. But that's because it's just so you just mentioned how, your vintage toy store is kind you have to kind of travel for it. It's not like that in my case. I'm just surrounded by easily accessible places to go look for stuff. I'm surrounded by a huge recycled bookstore, where again all these books are donated and they're resold. Up the street, I'm actually near a fantastic vintage toy shop. Um, called Toy Time Tunnel Toys. They just actually threw a ginormous toy show over the weekend, and I'm still buzzing over that. But also, yeah, so everything's just a little bit easy accessible for me, to just it be like a quick errand that I can just be like, oh, well, I'm gonna go to pick up some groceries. Let me stop by this thrift store that's next door and pop in and see what's in. So yeah, it's just really accessible for me. So but for sure average 3 to 4 days.
You mentioned obviously the recycled bookstore there. What's one of the best finds you've found at the bookstore?
I found I love collecting the art books, so I found recently the Revenge of the Sith art book, that I've been after for a very long time. So I've completed all of my prequel art books. So I found that at the recycled bookstore, which was something that was really exciting for me just because I've been kind of dreaming about it for a very long time. I almost even went on eBay and bought it, but I got it for a really good deal. It's in great condition. Um, A really fun one that I did pick up recently were the Lando Calrissian paperback books that came out. They're vintage too. It was a trilogy that had come out, and so the whole trilogy set was there. So I picked up these Lando Calrissian books, and let me tell you, the artwork is absolutely fantastic. I am so obsessed. Just a complete little surprise, but for that whole little trilogy set, I got it for, I want to say, $3 total. I think each book ran like was for $1, but they're in pretty decent shape. But if you go, I always kind of like to do a price check on eBay just to see how much they're going for and see if I really got a good deal. Um, yeah, they're I think they go probably for like $20 a book. So instead of 60 for the trilogy, I only spent 3, which is nice.
You got a cracking deal.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. And it's a pleasant surprise again. And this is what's so fun is that I'll see something and be like, wow, I've never seen this before. And then, I spend most of the time looking up the item and the history behind it. And I had no idea they had a Lando Calrissian, trilogy book set, which is so cool. Then that's me just discovering something brand new that I was not aware of. And I think that's just also the fun of it also. Just kind of discovering a piece of merchandise that you didn't know existed, because there's a lot.
I can only imagine, especially being where you are, with being sort of such a, as you said, not far from Lucasfilm itself, and sort of being the area where sort of Lucasfilm was first set up originally. I imagine it is sort of I imagine you can find, things you find every week, probably, certain types of merchandise, but I imagine that every now and then you find something really, really rare. I was wondering, obviously with it being the Bay Area, obviously I imagine, there's been generations of people who work for Lucasfilm, live in that area over the decades. Do you ever come across anything that's sort of not merchandise, but sort of cast and crew related items?
Absolutely, absolutely. I come across it's surprising just how much I come across these kind of items. I have a pretty great collection as the crew member clothing. So a lot of like their jackets and their vests and their t-shirts. My most prized possession is the episode 1 Letterman jacket. It's like this leather jacket, and it was from the VFX crew of episode 1, which is really, I actually found 2 of those. Which is really, we can't believe I own something like that. I also have a Last Jedi vest that was a crew vest. I found patches, or specific, like, I do have a snow globe. I think that was given out at a holiday party. Yeah, just weird, just these unique things, unique items. I do have an amazing coat that was given at the Memorial Day Lucasfilm picnic, I guess they had. Thinking like in the 90s or something. But yeah, I've come across a lot of interesting things. I think probably the most unique one that I picked up was someone had a set of Christmas cards that Lucasfilm had sent out, probably to like their employees and stuff. So I was able to pick up a set of 5 of those. And I have not decided if I ever want to. I probably will eventually give them away to uh, someone special, but for now, it's a really unique Christmas card. So I'm kind of keeping that for my archives.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I once found it was a Jar Jar Binks watch from the late 90s, from the Phantom Menace, and it came inside a sort of a Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber holder, and I had that for quite a while in my collection, and then I actually ended up giving that to a friend who I just knew would appreciate it more.
Yeah.
Um, So I think it's great when you find those items and you actually later give them to someone who can actually appreciate it a bit more than yourself. I think that's a really cool aspect of collecting that doesn't get talked about much.
Yeah,
Um,
and I totally agree. I find things for like silly like prices that are very not or inexpensive. So, yeah, I don't mind passing them along to friends who I know who are, would enjoy them a lot more than I do. Um, and like for me, I think that like you just said, I think that's just like a really great joy of collecting too. And recently I just been I've been trading, I've been finding friends to trade items with, which is kind of fun. So yeah, there's a lot of, it's not just for me. It's, if I can, I don't mind like sharing a few items.
that's awesome. I really love sort of Star Wars caps. I sort of collect Star Wars caps. Do you find sort of many awesome sort of headwear?
Yes. Yes. I recently picked up this past weekend. I picked up the Anakin Pod Racer helmet. Um, I'm forgetting the name of the brand. It came out obviously during episode 1, but they had a set of like helmets, and they also released the Naboo Starfighter helmet, which I picked up earlier this year. So I had the Naboo starter helmet, the pilot helmet, and I have the Anakin pod racing helmet, both from episode 1, which are pretty iconic. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with those. Those headwears are just can't pass those up.
Definitely not. Sort of what's the main things what's the main things you go for them when you're on hunts, or is it just literally a case of where you could find anything and just sort of it could be anything that day, or is there sort of certain types of merchandise that you really want to try and collect?
It depends. And in the beginning when I started doing this, I would just grab anything that said Star Wars. Just anything. And I realized, wow, I'm probably spending a little too much money on something that I probably won't really, pay attention to. But I don't know, I go through phases. I sometimes will focus on my collection on certain items. Obviously for me, I keep talking about the prequels because the prequels are just big huge part of my childhood, so I really focus on I've been focusing a lot on the prequel stuff because one, I'm an adult, I have money now, and I can buy merchandise that I probably didn't get to as a kid. So yeah, I just been that's kind of really what I focus on. I'm on a kick right now for anything Ewoks animated shows or yeah, anything Ewok vintage related, I'm kind of like obsessing over recently. So I just go through phases. Honestly, it's really hard to say no to something. Yeah, it just depends. Also, it really just depends on like this how I feel that day. If I just feel like I just have this personal connection to this item, I'm gonna pick it up. Or also, like I said, I do my eBay check. If I see something, don't know what it is, let me look it up. And if it's for obviously a very, inexpensive price, I'll pick it up. Um, and yes, but I in the beginning I definitely was just kind of going overboard and just picking anything that just had the Star Wars logo and just went after it. And again, come to find out that I'm just accumulating a lot of stuff that I really don't need. So let me just kind of focus on my collection. Obviously the Book of Boba Fett show just ended, so I was on a Boba Fett bounty hunter kick. So anything that had Boba Fett, I would pick up, especially during the show where I was just like completely obsessive over what was going on. Obviously, we have a Obi-Wan Kenobi series coming out, so anything Revenge of the Sith related, um, I am kind of really after currently right now. That's kind of just really what's on my mind. Again, I just went to this toy shop and I realized, wow, I bought a lot of Revenge of the Sith merch. Wonder why? I think it's because the Kenobi show is just really fresh on my mind. So, yeah, it just I think it's whatever my mood is, I guess, right? It's like you go to a restaurant and you're like, "Huh, what am I going to order today?" It's just whatever I have the appetite for. So I think that I think that's I'm just gonna say that's just how it is for my collecting.
I think you're definitely right. I think I sort of like this time last year I started like collecting vintage Star Wars figures, like the original kind of figures, and I've got about I'd say about 15, um, all in sort of various states of condition. But then the past few months, I've sort of been rebuying sort of mint on card Phantom Menace figures. Um,
Nice.
so I think I think it is. At the minute, Kenobi's coming, so it's sort of that prequel era. I think Boba Fett sort of it dealt with a lot of sort of Boba and sort of his father Django, and it sort of did sort of reinvigorate those feelings of sort of the prequels. Obviously, I think it's 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones this year. So who knows? Maybe I'll start dabbling in Attack of the Clones merchandise as well. And these are figures I've probably owned like when I was younger, but I'm sort of rebuying them now as an adult.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. It's sort of depending on what's going on in Star Wars, I think it can lead you to sort of different things. I think you
Hmm.
hit two nails on the head there when you said sort of money and space. I think for me, I was an avid Black Series collector.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got them all up to number 100. Um,
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I'm possibly missing one or two that I need for the collection, but after that point, I sort of stopped buying them
Yeah.
all. If that makes sense. And
Hmm.
now I just sort of hunt for the ones that that look really cool. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just because trying to save some money, I don't need to buy them all, and also be space. I
Hmm.
was just wondering how much real estate does your collection take up, and sort of have you come up with any creative ways to display your Star Wars merchandise?
Yes. So, my husband was kind enough to give me complete free reign of our garage. We have a pretty big, spacious garage. So that's where most of my collection, my thrift collection, is. On top of just Star Wars, I just love anything 90s, like, anything that just resembles my childhood from like 90s cartoons, 90s video game consoles. Um, I'm just really in my garage. It's a very heavily like Star Wars slash 90s childhood, area. Um, I also love collecting VHS tapes. So I have a VCR, I have some TVs in there. So I kind of have that area in the garage. I have my office where I do my podcasting or just, just some, if I'm ever working at home, I have my little space here. And I do have like my nicer Star Wars collectibles in my office inside the house. So I love reading the books also. So I have like, my nice book collection. I have like my nicer art prints in this room. Um, Also, I have a couple Hot Toys collectibles and just like nicer action figures that I kind of have displayed in this office. Um, but I will say that I am pretty fortunate with the space that I have to, again, build my collection. Um, and yeah, so luckily enough to have this garage, and I kind of I've been rearranging them. I've been actually working, after we get off this call, I'm probably going to go and work on it a little bit more. I kind of have in sectioned off in kind of trilogies, I guess. So I have like the original trilogy collection, the prequels, and then anything like from the sequel era. I have like a whole little area for it, which isn't much from the sequel era. Nothing. It's not because I don't have anything against it. It's just, again, I when I thrift a lot of the stuff, it's a lot of like older merchandise that I pick up and find. So I have a lot of cool vehicles, like Star Wars vehicles. Like I have a couple AT-ATs, AT-ATs. I have some TIE fighters. I actually have the Naboo big starship. So I want to get those hung up in the garage, kind of have like, just some hung or like, or hung up on the wall or something like displayed nicely. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But honestly, I am very fortunate to have this kind of, and big enough space. Uh, Also, I actually rotate a lot of things. So I'll have something in my collection. I'll realize, you know what, I don't really have the space enough for it anymore. I'll either, pass it along to a friend, or again, I do some trading. Because I love to just kind of rotate things out to rotate things in. You know what I mean? Instead of just having everything just in. I don't want to get to the point where I have to stuff stuff in storage boxes just because I don't have any room. I rather just um bring stuff in, or take stuff out, bring stuff in. So it's like, you just kind of, I have a maximum capacity for space. I don't know if that makes sense. Just to kind of control the space area.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge as a collector. I think is sort of when you sort of reach sort of space problems. It's about sort of how do you manage it. I think we're all the same, where we sort of we move things on to bring in other pieces, and then
Hmm.
it sort of also means that you're never ever going to be complete, because you'll move some things on, and then in a couple of years you might even acquire them again.
Hmm.
If you know
Yep.
what I mean. But like sort of the hunt is never done, which is what I find to be sort of one of the most exciting parts of being a Star Wars collector.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything that you're on the hunt for that you've never found yet?
Let's see. I have, let's see. I have there's this t-shirt that came out in 1999. It's this Queen Amidala t-shirt. It was probably sold for only, I don't know, $15 here when it came out. That shirt is probably one of the most rarest Star Wars shirt. It's pretty rare. I People sell it for $700. Don't know. It's insane. It's wild. It's a shirt that you just wear. It's something that is just the bane of my existence. I see it. I want it. I know I can't have it. It's a pretty hefty price tag. Um, I recently just got a Star Wars pod racing arcade game. I don't think anything's gonna top that. So it's really hard for me to think like, wow, I wish I had this. It would be absolutely incredible. Because I think that was just so big. But this t-shirt is so silly how much it cost online. For those who are reselling it. It's a pretty rare t-shirt and I really want it. So if I could own that one day, I think I would just be incredibly happy. I also discovered these little PVC like figures from like the Ewoks cartoon show and the Droids show. The both animated shows, they came out with these cute figures. They're really pricey. I saw the complete set at this toy show for like $1,200, and if I could be so lucky to come across those for a much cheaper price, I would be very happy. So that's currently what I'm thinking about right now. And you know what? Tomorrow it might change. It's always changing because I feel like I'm always discovering something new. And it's really hard to kind of keep up of what my dream goal would be. I feel like of what I want. Um so yeah, it's kind of a tricky question because it's always changing. Um, but yeah, these little action figure from the Droid Show and Ewoks animated show is really, they look really cool, and I wish I had them. um, I also wish I had the Ewok Village from the Return of the Jedi vintage line. Really want it. I almost got it for cheap one day and I passed on it and I regret it ever since. So I think it's a lot of the things that haunt me is things that I pass up and think like, wow, I should have just picked it up.
Yeah, I think one of mine. So I passed on one of the ones I don't have in the Black Series is the Doctor Aphra 6-inch figure,
Mhm.
um, and I had it in my hands, and I sort of passed it up, and then I've sort of never seen it in the wild again since. So I
Yeah.
know what that's like. But good luck hunting your Padme Amidala t-shirt and your Ewoks figures. Just to clarify, when you're talking about that, the Star Wars Episode 1 Pod Racer arcade game, what you're saying is that it's the arcade game from the arcade, so it's the large screen, and it's where you actually sit inside the pod, correct?
Yes, that is. I just got that, I think, last month. Um, and it still works. It's the one that you played. Yeah, it's the one that you sit down and you have the handles and you ride like you're riding a pod racer, and it has the whole seat and everything. Um, yeah, I somebody was getting rid of that online, and I was able lucky enough to pick it up at a very cheap price, and it's complete. It works, and it came with a manual, so pretty wild.
That is epic. I remember having to travel, sort of, I had to get on a bus or a coach to travel about 30 minutes to get to
Hmm.
a sort of an out of town mall called the Metro Centre,
Uh-huh.
uh, sort of shopping centre as a kid to play that. So I remember traveling there to sort of play that in the amusements. That's fantastic. When you say a good deal, can you tell us sort of how much one of those costs?
I don't know how much they're worth, but I got it for $200. two
What
hundred
that is,
dollars. I
that's
know.
that sounds fantastic.
I know they're worth thousands. It's in working order. It works. It came with the owner's manual. The gentleman who sold it, he was bit in a bit of a bind. He actually owned a pizza company for many years, and when they shut down in like 2006, he kept a lot of like the arcade cabinets stored in his garage, and he had to move, and he was just kind of getting rid of them. And then he kind of said, "Hey, whoever picks this up, I need this out of my house today. Can this is the price. It works. Just I needed it picked up." I responded. It was the longest 8 minutes of my life for him to respond back. I was so nervous. I was like, "Oh no, someone already picked it up." And sure enough, he responded, and I said, "I am on my way. I don't have a truck, but I will get a truck. I will figure it out. I'm on my way." Um, but yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think that's why I'm working so hard on my collection in my garage right now. It's because it's such a huge piece. It's like you have to just build around. It's just like it centers my area. And I think I've been waiting for a very long time for something cool like that, so it could be like just like the main focus the um of my collection. I always wanted like at least like a Star Wars pinball machine, something cool. I never expected it would be a pod racing arcade game. Never would I've ever dreamed of anything like that. Especially, I mean, I've been on, I've just been talking about how much I love collecting like any like the prequel merchandise. This kind of was really up my alley, and I could not have asked for a better piece like like this arcade cabinet.
No, I've seen the pictures and it looks absolutely fantastic. I almost didn't believe it when I saw the pictures of like just how good it looks still. Considering it's over 20 years old now.
It's pretty. It's over 20 years. You're right.
Do you know, sort of, obviously it's in working order now? Do you know who to go to if it needs repairing or anything like that?
If it needs any repairing, I looked up. There's a couple of arcade cabinet like repair companies that will come out, and they specialize in arcade games. I think there's someone who's about 20 minutes. But I checked it out. Even when I went over there, we tested it out. It works now. So hopefully I don't need to be calling anybody anytime soon. um but yeah, we're and the cool thing about picking this thing up, it was very close to my house. It was probably like a 10-minute drive, um, which I've heard stories. Somebody was sharing with me on Twitter that when they picked up their arcade, they had to do like they got a 2-hour drive for it, and it got the the switchboard or whatever the board is inside got completely damaged from all the bumps in the road and driving. That it ended up not working when they got home. So I came home and I tested it out. It works perfectly. But just in case, yeah, I would have to hire somebody who just specializes in I don't think there's a YouTube video I of any, how to fix a pod racing or arcade game. But what works in my favor is I do have the owner's manual, which is cool. I have the key to adjust anything, like if I want to charge per play or have it unlimited, I get to have that option, which is fun. So I get to charge people. If anybody wants to play my arcade game, I am going to be charging. So
You could definitely invite people over for your own little mini Star Wars festival.
there you go.
To the garage.
Yeah.
Would you class the arcade as sort of the best deal you've done then for sort of what you paid for it, for what it is?
100%. 100%. I don't think I can I can't find a better deal. It's not because it's something that you can't even find online. You can't even go on eBay and look one up. They're so rare. So the fact that it was here locally near me for that price, I think like that's probably just the luckiest I've ever been. For sure. There's no way. I don't think I can ever top it. That's the thing. I feel like I could just retire. I shouldn't even be talking about Star Wars thrifting anymore. I think my career has ended at this point. It's really hard to top something like that.
With that being sort of the best deal, have you got a sort of a worse deal that you've done to get something that you just really wanted, so you've sort of paid over the odds?
That is a good question. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's a couple things that I've spent probably more money than I probably should have. And something that I probably didn't even really want. It was just more like, well, it's here. I guess I'll get it. That's again not me showing no restraint of like, saying yes to something. I'm trying to think. Let me see. I'm looking at my collection right now. Let's see. Oh yes, I did pick up a hot figure toy that was on Craigslist. So somebody was selling it out of their collection. Um and they sold it pretty much for the same price that they were selling it on eBay, and I bought it. Don't know why. So that really wasn't my deal. I probably could have got a better price on eBay. And it came with a box. The hot toys that I bought did not come with a box. It was just by itself. It didn't even come with like the extra, any of the any accessories or anything like that. So I probably could have got a better deal on eBay. I probably should would have spent a little bit more on eBay, but would have got the complete set, if that makes sense, with everything, the box and everything else. So that really wasn't my finest moment, but whatever. I wanted it. It looked really cool. There's a couple times that I've spent silly, like I think I spent like $10 on a episode 1 figure, which I know they don't cost that much. You can probably get them for half the price on eBay, but I think they knew whoever was selling it, they knew like, oh, she's gonna say yes because it's Star Wars, so I'm just gonna up the price, and then I did it. But again, that was kind of really like early on, and like when I started thrifting, so I really kind of wasn't aware of I was just kind of it was like impulse buys, and that's something that I've learned to kind of control over time instead of just like picking it up. But it's really hard to say no to more rare items where you just really don't see anywhere else.
Yeah, I think one of my recent purchases was it was a Star Wars cap, and it was the 25th anniversary cap. So it's sort of Star Wars. It's got the 1977 to 2002 logo. I can't remember how much that was now, but the cap came in a bundle with like a 25th anniversary mug.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi mug from Revenge of the Sith as well. So I ended up sort of getting 2 mugs with it, which I didn't really want, but I really wanted the cap, so I got sort of two bonus finds with that, which sort of were included in the cost.
Yeah.
But the cap wasn't available separately, so just sort of had to pay a bit more for that. It's crazy when you think of nostalgia. I think I've recently purchased some Star Wars VHS tapes, the original trilogy. Um,
Yes.
so the first copies of Star Wars that I owned were the copies that came with. They were sort of came with the blue boxes with the red metallic writing, and each VHS tape has in George Lucas interview one with Leonard Maltin.
Hmm.
So I've recently refound those and bought them. And obviously, my wife was like, "We don't have a VHS player. Why have you bought those?" And I was like, "No, like these were the copies that I had as as a 6-year-old." So I was like, I just wanted to re-own them. And then they actually came with copies of the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones on VHS as well, which I also did used to own but don't own anymore. It's just again just
Hmm.
extras that I sort of had to take in order to get the VHS I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I love VHS tapes. I love those Star Wars VHS tapes. They're you talk about nostalgia. That's probably like my earliest memory of Star Wars ever is seeing those VHS box sets like at my grandmother's house. Just I just remember them seeing them there. Um so I love those. Those are just one of my favorite things. And I find them a lot. And those are things I actually like to pass out to friends who I know would want a set or but I love collecting Star Wars VHS tapes. And you talk about the episode one and episode two VHS tapes. It really upsets me that they don't have a third Revenge of the Sith VHS tape. They stopped making them on VHS. It's like, just let me complete the collection already. um, but yeah, I love those. Yeah, there again, it's like you can't beat like just having like nostalgia. Like that's like probably like for me like the best warm fuzzy feel that I enjoy so much about doing this. Um and if something just resonates with me so much because of like, my childhood and my upbringing and my love for Star Wars, I'm just not going to not pass it up. But I have to agree with you, those VHS sets are just incredible. There's something just so endearing about them. I don't know. It's just like just a timestamp of what Star Wars used to be, and how it's just like evolved ever since. But yeah, there's something so simple about and warm about watching Star Wars on VHS tape. So just so good.
Definitely. Something else that is iconically Star Wars is, of course, lightsabers. Do you have many lightsabers in your collection?
I do. Because I live in California, so I can go to like Galaxy's Edge and I'll pick up a couple like the Legacy lightsabers. Um, I have the Ben Solo lightsaber. I have Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber, and I currently also have the black. It's the FX one. I have Count Dooku, and I just ordered the Ray's yellow um not the Galaxy's Edge one, the other lightsaber. I'm waiting for that to come in the mail. So, I want more lightsabers though.
Yeah, that's the big problem we have in the UK is that I really do love the look of the sort of the legacy ones, but obviously they're only available at Disney parks.
Mhm.
Obviously, we don't have one here in the UK, so we're sort of just stuck with the with what Hasbro are making, which
Mhm.
they do look good. Um, so I own one of the so it's the Luke Skywalker A New Hope lightsaber from Hasbro, probably
Yes.
from 2006 ish. It's really
Mhm.
good,
Mhm.
obviously, but I think they look a lot better now, and I know that those legacy ones from Disney parks probably are some of the best looking sabers they've made. Um, do you own any sort of more toy type lightsabers, like sort of from the 90s?
Absolutely, I do. I love those ones. I have the fun like the cheaper ones that probably came out like in like the early 2000s, the ones that would just attach to your belt, and the ones that you can just like, they don't light up, they just extend. So you can just like you'll swing it and they come out. And they're funny because you'll have like Qui-Gon's hilt, but it's a purple lightsaber. or you'll have yeah, they're just like all mixed colors and mixed hilts, which are really really fun. So I find those a lot at the flea market, and those are some things I just love collecting. Also, when I have my nieces and my nephews, or my friends who have kids, they come over, I like to just have like these extra lightsabers for them to kind of like play with, you know what I mean, like for them to smack each other around with. And not my legacy ones, just more of these like fun ones. um I do have the dark saber lightsaber that came out. I could not pass that up. um and I'm looking at it right now. I actually got this for $1. This is the Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber from I think 2005, like Revenge of the Sith. And it lights up too. It's really, really cool. Um, and I'm looking at the price on eBay right now. I'll tell you, it's I got it for $1, and it's really nice. I almost bought the Qui-Gon lightsaber from Phantom Menace, the one that also lights up, but I didn't get a chance to do that. But yeah, I like having just like extra lightsabers around my house. I keep them all over the house too. Before we started the show, my dogs were barking like maniacs. So sometimes I'll ignite a lightsaber and like they know, like, oh, okay, no more barking. Yeah,
I had the Qui-Gon lightsaber, was my first lightsaber,
nice.
sort of in 1999, which I believe is still in my parents' loft. I hope, but I have been trying to look for it again, just because with it being the first one I owned,
Hmm.
I sort of want to have it back. Um, it's one of those ones where, sort of when I moved house, um, so I went from sort of renting with my flatmate to sort of living in a house with my wife. So my mum and dad were like, "Oh, well, you've got a lot of stuff here that we're just going to drop off for you." And I was a bit like happy to get it back, but also sort of my wife Louise sort of, I don't think she understood the context of what was in storage there.
Hmm. Hmm.
So she knew
Yeah,
some stuff was there. So
yeah.
like all these boxes came, and like I've got my Kenner Millennium Falcon, I've got my Kenner X-wing, got my Kenner Snowspeeder, although it is missing one laser cannon. Got my Kenner TIE Fighter, although it is very a little bit discoloured. Got my Sebulba Pod Racer, got my
Hmm.
Naboo N1 Starfighter, got my Slave One from Attack of the Clones, got numerous speeder bikes, got Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter from Attack of the Clones. So quite a
Yes.
few stuff like that. But then, like the lightsaber was never there.
Yeah.
But then I didn't want to ask my mum for it because I was like, maybe there's more boxes that I don't want to get right now.
Hmm.
I'd rather wait until they move and they come across and then give us them back. If that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
just
No, it
feel like hard
does.
right that one.
Yeah.
So, but
No, for
yeah,
sure.
so that's definitely one that I'm after is the Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber from 1999,
Yeah.
because like I said, it was my first lightsaber.
That's
Um,
so cool. See, that's something that you remember owning and having, and that's something that that's again, that's the fun part. Like, you could eventually reunite with something.
Definitely, definitely. Do you so obviously you live in the Bay Area and you do a lot of your hunting in the Bay Area. Do you ever sort of travel across America or any other places and do a bit hunting anywhere else?
Absolutely. Anytime I go on vacation, I always spend time for hunting. I always have like extra hunting time. And my husband knows that. We took a trip to New Orleans, and I spent any downtime I had, I would go to like an antique store or thrift store or a toy store. I would, do any of that. Um, yeah. So anytime I'm traveling or anytime I'm going anywhere, even when I went to New York City, I said I need to go to the Goodwills and things like that. In like the thrift stores, any chance, yeah, honestly, any opportunity I have, I'll go. I live in the Bay Area, but we're also close to like Monterey Beach and Carmel, which they have really nice antique stores. So I like to kind of make my trip out there, and visit some antique stores. And you'll find there's this one in Monterey. It's a pretty big antique store, but there's a lot of fun Star Wars stuff, collectibles there. Um, that you can find. I actually found recently the Empire Strikes Back, the hand puppet Yoda. It was still in the box too. So I got it for a pretty good deal over there. So I'll travel if if I say, hey, you know what, I want it to Saturday, kind of want to go for a drive. I'll use that as an excuse. Or sometimes I'll go online and there's people who sell things online, like um, they sell like on third party websites, like offer up or Craigslist. They'll just put their stuff that they want to get rid of online, and that's like local. I wouldn't mind driving like an hour or two for something. I think I drove to Sacramento for a standee, cardboard Darth Vader standee. So yeah, I don't mind. If it's a good deal, nothing better to do, I will travel for it.
How many standees do you have?
I have four. So I have Darth Vader, I have Leia from Return of the Jedi, and I have both Anakin and Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith.
That sounds pretty awesome. That's one thing I don't have is standees. I just don't know where I'd keep them right now.
Yeah.
But I think they do look awesome when you see them.
Yeah.
Um,
The Anakin one is like I had it that same exact Anakin one in high school. When Revenge of the Sith came out, I was 16. I bought it at a mall during the Revenge of the Sith era days, and I think my mom only gave me $20 so I could, buy myself some lunch, and but I did not buy lunch that day. Instead, all my money went to that standee. And I remember me and my friends brought it back to my house, and was like this bus, we had to take the bus to get home. So we were carrying around a Anakin standee all the way home. And unfortunately, I just, I lost it throughout, throughout the years, but I definitely reordered that same one because it was just something, I've had it before and I wanted it again.
no, definitely. Definitely. I think one of the things I've been looking for is that it must have been around 2002. I think Hasbro did sort of the Attack of the Clones sneak preview where they released 4 figures
Hmm.
in sort of the green packaging before the Attack of the Clones packaging came out, which was blue. So I've got the Jango Fett, I've got the Zam Wessel, and I think there's a clone and a droid. So I just need the clone and the droid to sort of complete that collection. So it's just a 4 figure wave, but just something I thought really cool. Like these were sort of the sneak peek figures. So I was really after them. So there's 2 more. I've got 2 more to get there, and then also I just remember sort of the last of the Power of the Force line. They did sort of it was sort of the flashback photos.
Hmm.
So, for example, the Darth Vader one comes with the Darth Vader flashback photo, and you can pull the tab down, and it reveals Anakin Skywalker. So I've got the Vader and I've got the Yoda so far in that collection, but I'm looking to collect all of those as well, sort of the sneak preview prequel. Again, sort of this is what I was looking at shops when I was, little, and I did have some of them when I was little, but I don't have any of my figures when I was little now, so
Yeah.
sort of it's fun to sort of be on the hunt, trying to recollect them.
Yeah, that's the first part.
And as I said, one of the good things over here is obviously we don't have as many opportunities to find them in the wild, but there is a couple of really cool sort of Facebook groups that are sort of really well run and have a lot of good people in them with fair prices. And sort of I've been doing a lot of my hunting through these Facebook groups lately. And like I said, I've managed to get some really good stuff for sort of really reasonable prices,
Oh, that's awesome.
which has been good. But
Yeah.
it's good. But even though I prefer looking like going out and actually like hunting for it, and you never know what you're going to find, and that excitement when you see it and then finally buying it. I think nothing beats that for me. That experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally get it.
Do you ever think about sort of opening up your own sort of Star Wars little antique store, seeing as your collection is, very large and is in an office and a garage?
uh I don't know. I might have to start selling some stuff. I'll do like at a reasonable, I probably gonna have to start letting stuff go. Don't know about my own antique shop, but maybe I'll be having something on my social media like store or something, just so I can get some stuff out to friends that I met online who would want to be interested in purchasing something for me. That might be something in the future that I'll probably do.
If only we could all be Steve Sansweet and just have a giant museum for our collections to live in.
That would be amazing. I wish if only. Yeah, if only.
I actually got one of Celebration Chicago.
Hmm.
I believe I sort of got a raffle win at the Rancho Obi-Wan area. So I actually got one of the it's one of the teaser posters for Revenge of the Sith, where it's the Darth Vader poster. Who's your daddy?
Yes.
So I've got one of those. It's actually signed by Steve Sansweet as well.
Oh, excellent. That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah, so I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere safe, rolled up.
I'm pretty close to Rancho Obi-Wan too. Petaluma is probably like an hour drive for me. So
have you
not that
been?
far. I have not been. They've been closed. They haven't even. I've been wanting to go, but they haven't had any plans to reopen. Um, but definitely when that happens, I'm gonna try.
It's one of those things where like I really want to go there, and then again I've not been to Battery yet, either on the East Coast or the West Coast, just because I haven't been able to get
Hmm.
out of the States. So there's plenty for me to do when I do finally manage to come across.
Yeah,
Will you be at Star Wars Celebration this year?
I will. I'm really excited about it. Yes, this will be my third celebration. I went to Orlando, Chicago, and the next one Anaheim, and we decided that we're just gonna drive there because it's a 5 hour drive, so it's not that far. And also, I'm going to be doing some Star Wars thrifting while I'm over there at that showroom floor. If I'm, I'll bring. I'm gonna bring some collectibles home. So, um, better if I just drive there instead of having to deal with the airplane coming on the way back.
Yeah, that was so. I did Celebration in London, and I did Celebration Orlando, and I
Mm,
did Celebration Chicago.
Chicago.
I sadly won't be coming to this year's one,
Hmm.
just because of the dates and when it's been moved to. But that was one of the things. Obviously, coming when I came out to Orlando, had a great time. I had bought quite a lot of stuff. That was all my suitcase. I had sort of, I'd wrapped it pretty well. And to be fair, it all came back pretty well. But so the airline lost my case on the way home.
Hmm.
So the case came like 4 days later, but I was just like freaking out in that 4 day period of like, where's my suitcase? Because like all of my Star Wars merchandise that I've bought is in the case, and they don't know where it is. um, but
Yeah.
I eventually got it back, so that was all right. Crisis averted.
Yeah. Cool.
What's the most sort of creative thing you've done with a piece of Star Wars merchandise? Have you sort of integrated any into sort of everyday use or sort of everyday ornamentation?
Sometimes I find a lot of like the Star Wars vehicles that are so like damaged and broken that I actually kind of use those as like I add plants in them. So I think I found the Millennium Falcon. It was during like the Force Awakens line. So, but the whole back was cracked. I said, okay, let me put this in my garden. So I'll just put stuff in my garden. I usually utilize pieces for my garden. So I'll have and I'll plant like plants in there. So I have a Millennium Falcon in my backyard and there's some plants growing out. I found a Darth Vader toaster that wasn't working, so I was able to remove the all the electrical parts and just have like the cool helmet and made that added some plants also. Yeah, it's mainly just like for like my garden area, my garden use, just like damaged parts. I'll kind of have that. Um to repurpose. Also, I find a lot of cool T-shirts for very inexpensive, but at Star Wars they always have like just kind of like the black, just Star Wars T-shirt and like the logo and all the like images and stuff. If I want to switch it up, I'll sometimes like add like a little fun tie dye or bleach dye to it to kind of change the aesthetic and design of it a little bit. What someone really does that's really cool I've seen is someone buy like old paintings and like kind of add like Star Wars paint characters on it. I thought that would be really neat to do one day. I recently picked up an old Stormtrooper piggy bank. It's not glass or anything. And I actually have it so my niece can paint on it when when she comes over. So I just kind of do a lot of gardening with that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think it's great to sort of, especially when you find things that sort of aren't in the best of conditions, how, we can still actually collect them and actually make them sort of part of our home life. I think that's really, really cool, really, really important. And like, I remember at my friend's house, his grand's house, even to this day, we must have left a. So we left I think it's a Darth Vader figure. We were playing in the trees. We sort of left the Darth Vader figure sort of in the tree,
Mm-hmm.
and the tree's grown in time, and sort of the figure's like wedged in the tree. If that makes sense, if I'm describing that correctly.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's there forever. You have to chop the tree down a bit to sort of get it out now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been there for the best part of probably 25 years. And like I think I think his nana moved house a couple of years ago, but like that's still there unless they took the tree out.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't notice it unless you get close to it. We didn't notice till like 15 years later. He was like, "Oh look, I found this in the tree. We must have left it there when we were little," and then never went back and picked it up.
That's actually really cool. I actually kind of want to do that. Like that sounds really that's something that I would like absolutely love and enjoy. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I honestly I just have like this I just have Star Wars kind of just like trickled in all over my house and stuff. Um yeah, I whatever I can if I can try and repurpose it, I'll try. But for me, really, it's just like the plant stuff that I really, if it's a toy that I can't repurpose or, I'll try and do that. Also, yeah, just so I can kind of add the Star Wars um, decorating to the backyard too, which is really cool. So I try and kind of keep it like that. That's really cool. Darth Vader just wedged in the tree like that. I love that.
Yeah, it's so he's essentially. I think we've obviously put him like on a branch where the branch has gone in between his legs, and then that branch has grown in like 2 decades,
Yeah.
and it's sort of grown around him.
Yeah.
So he's like stuck there now. So yeah, it's no, so he's a bit discolored and stuff. He's been out there, but yeah, it's really cool.
I love that. I love that.
And I think that brings an end sort of my questions on sort of why Star Wars thrifting is purely Belter. Is there anything else that you wanna add about it, Silver?
Yeah, honestly, like it's been really cool just to kind of build there's different ways to start, to why a collector likes to collect. And if it brings you joy, then that's just really awesome. Just like any way to can kind of continue to celebrate this galaxy that we love. It's just really cool. And I'm really glad that I can actually that's like kind of like what I bring to the table. I am not talented at anywhere else. There's a lot of, like there's podcasts such as yourself. There's, people who, have do artwork and stuff like that. Or cosplays. Collecting is just such a big part of celebrating fandom, and it's really cool. And if you like collecting and love talking about collecting, feel free to DM me. DMs are always open. I love talking about unique or just pretty much any Star Wars finds. But yes, yeah, I honestly, if you want to build your Star Wars collection, I would, try to check out like the secondhand stuff because you'll find some really unique things there too. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what I have. But thanks again for having me on. That was really, really fantastic. I love talking about Star Wars thrifting or just Star Wars whenever I can.
No, definitely. I think thank you very much for coming on. Obviously, I think our past episodes have been about certain Star Wars characters or or about certain aspects of Star Wars that's like behind the scenes features and stuff. So collecting something that we haven't really dived that much into, but I think obviously it is such a huge part of the fandom.
Mhm.
And I think it's something that anybody can be a collector, big or small. And I think sort of that joy of sort of checking out these places, whether it's a secondhand store, whether it's a vintage toy shop, whether you go to a market, you never know what you're going to find, and you can always add to your collection that way. And I think it is definitely Star Wars thrifting / Star Wars collecting is definitely purely BELTA, in my opinion. So I definitely agree with you. Where can the listeners find you on social media, Silver?
Yeah, you can find me at Star Wars Thrift on Twitter, Star Wars Thrifting on Instagram and YouTube. I also host a podcast with my friend Kat, and we are called Into the Garbage Chute, and we are a weekly podcast. And yeah, so check us out there. That's where you'll find me talk more Star Wars with my gal pal. But for all the collecting Star Wars thrifting, it's Star Wars Thrift on Twitter and Instagram.
And I think for anybody listening who sort of, likes Star Wars collecting, I think definitely check out Silver's social media. As I said, I live curiously through it just because, as I said, here in the UK, we don't have the opportunity sort of that you guys have over there in the States, but it's sort of seeing the things that you find on your weekly hunts, I think is absolutely fantastic. And like I said, it makes me smile quite a bit when I see certain things, in particular, like that. Definitely when I seen the picture of the pod racer, that was one where I was like, oh my God, I was sort of like jaw dropped, sort of in happiness of sort of someone finding that and how awesome that would be. So definitely check it out. But no, thank you very much for joining me, Silver. We'll definitely have you back on at some point to talk other aspects of Star Wars if you're up for that sometime.
Yeah, awesome. Anytime.
We'll get that sorted out. But no, thank you very much for joining us, Silver. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. Remember, if you're listening on Spotify, you can now give podcasts a review. So if you can give us a 5-star review, that would be fantastic. The same as on Apple Podcasts, you can give it a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Sort of whatever you listen to the podcast on, if it has a rating system, if you could leave us the top review that you can, again, just helps other people find the podcast. Also helps us attract other guests as well. But I hope everyone's keeping safe. May the force be with everyone. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.
Hello, Star Wars listeners. This is Savannah Odit. You might know me as host of The Dorky Diva Show with my co-host Brian Balance. I am also producer of The Adventures of the Zolan Dart, which is a Star Wars-inspired audio drama that we produced over the last year. If you love stories about smugglers, courage, heroic characters, and maybe a few foes along the way, you should go to thedorkydivashow.com and listen to The Adventures of the Zolan Dart today.
Shout! We've got your pigs.
Were any of the critters harmed?
What did you do now?
I didn't do anything. I just freaked out for no reason.
It was nice doing business with you again. Maybe next time we could deliver something less temperamental.
Now, what you call temperamental, I call fun.
Hey, is there a place nearby where I can make some repairs?
3 clicks south of here, you'll find a small spaceport. They should have what you need, as long as it's nothing too big.
Dynamic class? My stars, you don't hear about many of those still being space-worthy.
It's been in my family for a while.
She's pretty great. Any chance you have a hover cart we can use to load up?
I'll check out the HoloNet to see if anything new has come up in the sector.
My name is Sereth Khan. I am the chief here on Kamai. My people and I have been experiencing food shortages as of late due to unforeseen natural occurrences. We are looking to hire someone.
I say we take this one. The pay is great, and it's the type of job we're familiar with.
Welcome, welcome. You must be Captain Otoa. I've already sent word to Pac 2 to expect you in the next cycle or so.
You told him we were coming before we even accepted the job. That's rather presumptuous, isn't it?
Perhaps, though once I received confirmation that you were interested and on your way here, I couldn't help but hope.
Fair enough. Well, we'll be back as soon as we can.
Well, that's not good.
Is that blaster fire I hear?
Ah, so you're the one.
Captain, it sounds like they want to do this the hard way.
I love when they got some fight in them.
This is bad. This is bad. We're about to have a lot of company.
I'll see you soon.